Okay, so Numbers chapter 12, we get to explore the question, what happens if you have too many cooks in the kitchen? This is going to be an interesting one, so watch out for this. We've heard a little bit about this already. Way back, I believe it was in the early parts of Leviticus. They talked about this a little bit right at the end of Exodus, basically. We're getting more of the story now. Again, this is the same story from the end of Exodus, but we're now getting more of the story, basically. So Aaron and Miriam complain against Moses, the most meek of all men. The Lord promises to speak to Moses, mouth to mouth, and to reveal to him the similitude of the Lord. Miriam becomes leprous for a week. So this is really interesting, okay? Aaron and Miriam are the older brother and older sister of Moses. Remember, Miriam was Moses' sister who was hiding in the bulrushes. Remember, on the sides of the embankment, she followed the basket that Moses was in and then actually talked with Moses' Egyptian mom, his adopted mom, and said, do you want me to get a Hebrew woman to help you raise the child? And when she said yes, she went back and got her own mom, the real mom of Moses, to help take care of Moses as a baby and to raise him up. So now they're older. Moses is the prophet. He has kind of the main call over everybody. Miriam was elevated to be a prophetess. So as a woman, she kind of was like a higher ranking woman in the church at the time. So we can say that women still held priesthood offices or delegated priesthood authority even in Moses' day. Aaron, of course, is the leader of the priesthood. Outside the Melchizedek priesthood that Moses had, he was the high priest, and he officiated for all of Israel in the spiritual things. But they decided to complain against their little brother, and this is what we're going to learn today. Verse 1, and Miriam and Aaron spake against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married, for he had married an Ethiopian woman. Now, we don't hear a ton about this. Okay, Ethiopia is a country that we think of as an extremely poverty-stricken, poor country that's on the eastern side of Africa, kind of central eastern Africa, just south of Egypt. That area of the land was known as Nubia back then from Egypt's time. And the Nubians were mortal enemies to the Egyptians. They hated each other, and they're always fighting in southern Egypt. Well, in one of these wars, Moses, because he's a prince of Egypt, he married an Ethiopian, probably a princess of Ethiopian royalty, so that they could bring a conclusion to a war. This was a very common thing to happen. You'd have two countries go to war to resolve it. My son's going to marry your daughter. That helps bring the two kingdoms together to placate the people and realize we have reasons not to fight now, basically. So Moses had a wife, an Ethiopian wife, while he was in Egypt. Okay, so remember, he got kicked out of Egypt. His wife didn't go with him, but he got kicked out, and then he ended up marrying another woman, you remember, Jethro's daughter at the well. And then when he went back to Egypt to free the children of Israel, he picked up his wife and family, and then they came out with him to meet his other family, basically, who was out in the desert. So Miriam and Aaron are upset because he has this Ethiopian wife, basically. Verse 2, and they said, so this is Miriam and Aaron speaking, hath the Lord indeed spoken only by Moses? Hath he not spoken also by us? And the Lord heard it. Now the man Moses was very meek above all the men which were upon the face of the earth. So that verse 3 is an interesting one, because Moses is, again, really, really meek, meaning humble, and most likely he doesn't believe in himself. And if you remember from the burning bush incident, Moses complains that he's not a good spokesperson because he is terrible at speech. He probably had a speech impediment. So he doesn't think highly of himself. He doesn't regard himself as an amazing person. He's not full of his own self. He doesn't drink his own Kool-Aid. So he's really meek, and that he struggles probably to lead the people because of that, because he lacks faith and confidence in himself. And we can see this through some of the experiences that Moses has when Moses is like, why me, God? Why me? I'm not the person you want to have do this. And God's like, nope, I'm going to help you to do this so that you can make it work. So God is always helping Moses to make things happen and work. So Moses is getting his faith applied a lot too when God calls him to do things. So verse 4, the Lord spake suddenly to Moses and unto Aaron and unto Miriam, come out ye three unto the tabernacle of congregation. And they three came out. So all of a sudden, Moses gets a message from God, Aaron does, and Miriam does, all three of them. I need you to come to the tabernacle. Okay, so we all go up to the tabernacle, and they're probably like, what's going on? What is this? Because Moses doesn't realize Aaron and Miriam have been complaining about him behind his back. But the Lord knew it. Verse 5, the Lord came down in the pillar of the cloud and stood in the door of the tabernacle and called Aaron and Miriam, and they both came forth. So this pillar of the cloud, there's a silhouette of a person in there. Whether they saw his face or not, we don't know for sure, but they could tell there's somebody in the cloud. There's a silhouette there at least. And he calls Aaron and Miriam to come forward to him. So they come forward. Verse 6, and he said, and so this is the Lord speaking to Aaron and Miriam, hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, the Lord, will make myself known unto him in a vision and will speak unto him in a dream. So he's establishing the rules. When I call a prophet, I reveal myself to him. He knows who I am. This is an important thing for us to think about, okay? This principle is still in effect today. If there be a prophet, Russell M. Nelson, any of them, okay, Gordon B. Hinckley, Thomas S. Monson, Joseph Smith, Heber J. Grant, I, the Lord, will make myself known unto them in a vision, will speak unto them in a dream. So he reveals himself to the prophet. This is very true. So next time you want to wonder if the prophet knows what he's talking about, he has a direct relationship and connection with God. He has knowledge of God's existence, not faith like the rest of us. We believe in God. He knows God. Verse 7, my servant Moses is not so, who is faithful in all mine house. With him will I speak mouth to mouth, even apparently, and not in the dark speeches. And the similitude of the Lord shall be he behold. Wherefore, then were ye not afraid to speak against my servant Moses? So he tells Aaron and Miriam, look, I reveal myself to Moses. He is the prophet. I directly reveal myself to him. So while they, Aaron and Miriam, have heard the voice of God, they have experienced the blessings of God, they haven't seen God. But Moses has. And so his comment back to them was basically, why are you complaining against Moses when I speak to him directly? So this is pretty powerful. I'm sure Aaron and Miriam are like, oh crap, we forgot. God could hear everything. He heard us complaining about Moses. So verse 9, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against him, and he departed. So he's a little upset that they're speaking bad against their brother, who's the prophet of God. Okay, and God has just told them, I reveal myself to the prophet. This is a real principle that still applies to this day. Okay, very, very important. So verse 10, the cloud departed from off the tabernacle, and behold, Miriam became leprous, white as snow. And Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. So now you might think, why did she get this and not Aaron? Well, there's a little bit of a backstory in this, and Josephus gives a bit of backstory about the Ethiopian woman that was Moses' wife. But when you look at this too, you have to realize Miriam, they weren't just talking with each other. Miriam was mounting a rebellion. She has decided she should be the prophet. She should be the one that is over Moses. So she should be running the church. And so she was preparing and plotting to rebel against Moses completely. So she was punished for that. Aaron was unhappy with the situation, but he wasn't going as far as Miriam did. Miriam was organizing a rebellion. She became leprous because of it. That was her punishment. Now, verse 11, Aaron said unto Moses, Alas, my Lord, I beseech thee, lay not the sin upon us, wherein we have done foolishly and wherein we have sinned. Let her not be as one dead, because leprosy usually meant a life sentence, of whom the flesh is half consumed when he cometh out of his mother's womb. And Moses cried unto the Lord, saying, Hear her now, O God, I beseech thee. So Moses is pleading in behalf of Miriam. Talk about compassion, loving your enemies, you know. Verse 14, And the Lord said unto Moses, If her father had but spit in her face, should she not be ashamed 7 days? Let her be shut out from the camp 7 days, and after that let her be received in again. So remember, not saying, if her father had spit in her face, basically, you got to realize that that's not necessarily, that's a little bit of a sign of not being in favor, but spit is a liquid coming out of a person's body. And if you remember, when we go back to the what is clean and unclean, those sections in Leviticus, it talks about something that emanates from someone's body that gets on you, you're unclean now. So if somebody spits on you, you're unclean. So that's what he's talking about. So he says she needs to go outside for 7 days. So they go outside for 7 days. Verse 15, Miriam was shut out from the camp 7 days, and the people journeyed not till Miriam was brought in again. And afterward the people removed from Hazeroth and pitched in the wilderness of Paran. So they're finally getting to Paran. They had to wait for Miriam to finish her uncleanness time before they could move, and she became clean again, no leprosy, and she was fine. And they were able to move forward, basically. But do not rebelling against a prophet of God, because we know the prophet of God has special knowledge of God himself, because God explained that to us. So rebelling against a prophet of God when he has that kind of knowledge is not a good idea. So next time the prophet gives us advice and you think, should I really follow that? He's just a man acting as a prophet. Do I really need to follow that advice? You might want to think of Numbers chapter 12 and realize that if he's speaking in his prophetic capacity, we should follow him, even if it sounds crazy, because he has knowledge of God and will not lead us astray. Very important point for us to think about. So if you have comments and thoughts about this, share them in the comment section. We'd love to hear them, to get opinions and ideas of what you think of these concepts we're learning as well. You probably, and admit it, if you didn't, you probably never thought about these deep concepts that are all over in the Old Testament. You just thought the Old Testament was some crazy stories of old people. Nope, there are very, very important principles and lessons for us to learn that are still applicable today that we get to learn. The Old Testament is just as important as the New Testament. So put in the comments what you think and admit, did you believe? Have you realized that there's this much in the Old Testament, or is this kind of a new thing for you to see? I'd never thought about the Old Testament as being real. So we'd love to hear your comments, love to comment back on those as well. So thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next chapter.